All right, cool. All right. All right. Hello, welcome. I am really excited about this. Hi, my name is Brent Leary. I'm excited about the conversation I'm about to have with these two fine people. PVK, Head of Market Strategy, Thought Leadership Research for CX over at Zoho. PVK, thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me over.
I know even for years. I've known Ivana Taylor for a long time. She's the publisher of DIY Marketing Marketers, DIYmarketers.com. She knows everything about marketing, whether it's digital, whether it's print, whatever it is. She knows about it. Even a
As
thank you.
long as it's low cost.
She's a stickler for the low cost thing. We love her for that, but that's a good thing.
I'm
But
your
we
value shopper.
absolutely. And we need value shopping because, economic uncertainties like right here, people, even as small businesses, we have to figure out what our customers want and be able to figure out the right experience for them. Customer experience, CX. This is what we're going to be spending the next 30 minutes or so talking about because we're at the end of 2022. We're beginning a new year. We want to get off to a good footing. We got to figure out the things that are going to be important for us as small business people to use, to utilize, to connect, to strategize around when it comes to, as I like to say, finding, catching, and keeping good customers and creating those experiences that will keep them going and with us for a long time. So we're going to spend the next 30 minutes kind of throwing out a couple of hot topics, maybe hot takes, some predictions, maybe about what is going to be important from a SMB perspective to really consider, think about, and implement when it comes to customer experience. So, before we get too deep into this, we were just talking before we started the broadcast that if you ask 10 different people what their definition of CX is, and once again, CX, customer experience, we're just going to say CX from here point. Okay. But if you ask 10 different people their definition for what CX is, you will definitely get at least 11 different answers out because one person will be him and on and come up with two things. But anyway, so before we start talking about CX, why don't we each take 30 seconds or so to give our own definitions of what CX is. So PVK, why don't you start us off?
Sure. So I think CX is essentially the embodiment of everything that a company does, and essentially the purpose of why that company exists as well, right? And it includes all of these products and services and offerings that they put out. It includes all of the experiences that customers go through, all of the outcomes, the emotions, the effort that they put in, the successes, the failures, the people they speak with. It includes absolutely everything. It is um, the highest overarching output of a company, right?
Ivana?
To me, and I'm going to use the word customer experience because sometimes I think we lose sight of that. It is the journey that your customer takes from the instant they have a problem until the outcome is in their hands. So that includes everything it takes from the trigger event of they have a desire for what you're selling, how they find it, once they find it, whether it's online or offline, how do they choose it? So they got to find it, they got to choose it, and then they got to buy it. And then maybe they have questions and support it. Maybe sometimes they want to cancel. So there are a lot of experiences that we human beings have from the instant that we know that we have a problem until we get the solution in our hands, and everything in between is that experience.
Very nice. Wow, you guys are even succinct within the time frame too. I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna. I like both of your definitions and how you approach it. I look at it similarly as well. I'll just say it's all the interactions, and it's not just the interactions between a customer and the vendor. It could be the customer and a product. It could be a customer and the partners that you work with. Everything that goes into them trying to figure out what they need and how they need it, and how they want to have a say in it, because it's not just about a transaction for them. It's about ways to improve their life, either professionally or personally. So that's the kind of the broad view of it. But I think I think we got good working definitions to start to dig in. But and I think it's really important too, because there is a lot of economic uncertainty, and there's a lot of not only from the SMB perspective, but it's also from the customer perspective. So when we start talking about CX, maybe each of you could take a spin at this too. Maybe even though you can start with this one. When you're in economic uncertainty, when every data point, it's like positive one day, the next day completely negative, and it just leaves a lot of people, not knowing where to go and what to do. How important is CX in this kind of economic environment?
Now, in my opinion, so understand, I'm coming from the getting and keeping customers perspective, right? So, and I'm going to also speak to it from a small business owner's perspective. Every small business was created in originally to create a customer experience, to solve a problem, like I said earlier, right? And that's all great until they start to scale. So now you've invested in repeating a great customer experience. And I think maybe, just maybe, I think we got it a little bit backwards, because technology has made such insane improvements in the last decade that we maybe got a little feature excited, right? We wanted to cut costs because we're afraid of uncertainty, because we go through a major disruption about once every 18 months or so. And so now we know disruptions are coming. And so we want to make sure that we're efficient and we have our costs under control. And so technology is really, really, what do I call it? It's an easy fix, right? You cannot hire people because technology can do things for you. I think the issue that a lot of small business owners have is maybe we put the technology cart before the horse, and we've forgotten our roots of the customer experience we chose to create. So I think we got a little bit excited about all the things technology can do and maybe jumped into it a little too quickly. And that hurts your customer's experience if you haven't thought it out in your small business and you don't have the resources to think it all out. So when times are tough, and whether it's inflation or a pandemic, every 18 months, expect it. Something's going to happen. So I think that you've always got to know customer experience in real time, in real life first. And I'm going to say this is going to make total sense to you, and I'll finish with that. A million years ago, when I was in school, and when I say a million years ago, I'm talking like 1983, people. So we're clear. We were still working with index cards for computers, right? And I took an IT class, and the professor said, and I'll never forget this, and I think this is just as true today as it was in 1983. Do not ever, ever, ever automate something that you have not done in real life in real time. Always know what you should be able to run a process and optimize a process for customer experience in our case before you automate anything. And that's what will save you. And that's what I always talk about. You got to find that 20% that's going to have the 80% impact. Don't just automate because you can.
Yeah. Before I go to you, I want to follow up with Ivana. How many, percentage-wise, if you had to guess, how many people are actually trying to automate things they never did manually before?
Oh, can I start with myself?
Please.
It is for those of us, if I'm talking to people here who are tool junkies like me, the pull towards really cool features is crazy. But I'm here to tell you that because I've just had this experience with Zoho, because I'm moving my entire training portal from one platform into a Zoho platform. and I had to tweak the funnel. I had to tweak which emails go, when they go, what do you put in what section on the landing page. You got to automate, not for the sake of automating, but for the sake of making it a logical progression from the time I see this thing. How do I click the button? Where am I going to go? How do I pay? What email do I get afterwards? What do I want to see? Always know. I wish I had my little Zoho notebook so I can show you how I wrote it out. This is what I want to see. Then I'm going to see this. Then I'm going to see this. Then I'm going to see this. Then, my friends, when you go to your support people. So now when I reach out to the support team, which is outstanding, by the way, just and say, this is what I have. This is what I want to do. And I'm stuck like here. Then they were like, like what I always say, oh, of course we have that. It's under the hood to the left of the battery. It's like, oh, there it is.
Nice.
Right?
I like the fact that, or maybe I don't like the fact. It sounds like there's a lot of people automating things to avoid doing them, other than, because they really need to be done better and more productively.
They need to be done from the perspective of how the customer, remember, and I'm going to keep talking about this before I shut up, frictionless, seamless, from desire to dollar.
From desire to dollar. Wow. Get a t-shirt made right now on that one. Okay. PVK, what do you think?
I actually agree with a lot of what she said as well. In fact, I think, given these uncertain economic months that are going to be ahead of us, I think customers have a general tendency to go from more vanity-driven experiences to more value-driven experiences, and they're going to be ruthlessly prioritizing those experiences and offerings that they can make the most out of. Right? And what that sends as a signal to businesses is that these next few months are going to be absolutely critical in terms of retaining customers, right? And from the last 2 or 3 years, where everybody's been on overdrive trying to acquire as many customers as they can, and market share and discounting and all that stuff, now it's about, you acquired a lot of customers. Now, what are we going to do to keep them, right? And a key element of that is automation, of course. And like Ivana mentioned as well, I think it's good to think of automation as an enabler rather than to think of it as something that can do what you don't want to do, right? That's basically the worst way to think about that. Yeah. There are a ton of things that people have to do that we internally call meta work, right? Which is not exactly the work that you do, but updating some system or getting data synced across various systems, or writing some additional notes, or transcribing calls, or things like that, right? Those are not really the actual work that you do. Those are the things that should be focused on automating, right? And getting a 360-degree view of the customer rather than having to switch tabs and things like that. Those are the things that have to be automated, rather than to say, I'm going to automate all of the email follow-up, I'm going to automate all of the messaging, all of the acknowledgements, and this and that. And there's really no end to that, right? You can automate everything you want, but at the expense of driving customers away. That's basically the biggest challenge, right? And I agree with Ivana again in terms of frictionless is going to be absolutely essential, because everybody is ruthlessly prioritizing what they absolutely need. Even a small amount of friction is going to rub them the wrong way, right? And they're going to start having second thoughts on whether I should consider this. Maybe you're on a clock, or you're 2 strikes out instead of 3 strikes out. Each of these things change depending on what the offering is, but the broader sense is absolutely true. And the other thing that we see with small businesses that they should take up is self-service, right? And this is also true of much larger businesses as well. But we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years that self-service is really the at the expense of sounding too dramatic, I'd say the elixir that sort of levels the differences between small and large businesses. Like tons of small businesses around the world do a lot of e-commerce and things like that, and they're able to compete with the likes of Etsy and Amazon and eBay and Craigslist, because they're able to offer those simple self-serve experiences that customers can just browse through and do by themselves, right? And a lot of that, in terms of even customer service, self-service is absolutely critical, right? Automation and self-service, knowing when to use them, using them to retain customers that you acquired in the last few years. That's the thing that I have.
Let me ask you to add on to that. What role does AI play in creating that digital self-service?
AI is actually a beautiful addition to self-service, which itself was a really good gift to small business, I'd say. What AI does is it makes things possible, and in a certain sense, extremely smooth, the way you would expect from only a large business, right? It smoothens out the experience for the end customer. So this could be a conversational AI bot that's just answering questions for the customer, or it could be just an AI anomaly spotting system that just says, usually you don't receive 100 customer service requests at this point of time in the day, right? Or something like sentiment analysis, which says this customer seems extremely annoyed or extremely dissatisfied. Maybe you should assign them to a supervisor and then have that conversation transparently with them, right? These are things that human beings had to spend a lot of time on. And even as simple as something that Zoho does is it offers a dashboard where it lists down some of your employees who have these open customer support requests, but they're not online now because they're probably on taking the day off or something like that. And you can quickly just jump into their queue and assign them to other people so that those questions don't go unanswered. Simple things like this, right? AI makes a lot of these things possible. Not that we couldn't do this without AI, right? We could look at an email and we would know if it sounded pissed or if it sounded happy. But the fact that it's able to do this in a split second at any scale, that makes it an amazing advantage for businesses of all sizes, in fact.
Even you mentioned the term seamless and frictionless a little while ago. How does AI play into that, and how does it? Maybe there's some scenarios that you see, small businesses can really leverage some of these things that we just talked about in the way that they do business in 2023. Okay,
so I'm actually going to take a little bit of what PDK was talking about, because I do not want, I have a small business tip for you, right? If you go out there and you look at all the research and you look at all the trends, and hey, I just did a survey last night and the results came back like everything else, but that left me with questions. So PDK said, every survey you're going to see out there says customers want more self-service. Now, can we just say, just stop for a minute and think about your consumer experience. Some self-service experiences is great. I love your example. Never occurred to me to think about eBay, Etsy, those kinds of things as a self-service. So that's such a great point versus the self-service you see in the supermarket, which is you go to try to scan your groceries and it's supposed to be fast, but like it doesn't happen. Brent, you and I are right in there, same age. PVK, I think you're like too young for this.
Yeah.
Like back in the day when we used to travel. Right now, travel is self-service. And that is a very, they've unloaded, and this is where your customers will say, they've unloaded your work to me. That creates resentment. What customers want is the fastest distance between their desire to the outcome. I want
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
The fastest and easiest. I would put
yes,
that
and easiest. Exactly. So I want to talk about your question about AI. As long as AI gives me your product or service within thumb's reach, button press, whatever, the fastest way, the easiest way, then I am all about self-service. So I think a lot of the research that you see misses out some really important context. There's like, my husband and I play this game like, you got to complete the sentence to make it true. Yeah, we love self-service. assuming it gives me what I want when I want it without a problem. So we didn't complete the sentence. So if AI could help, if you get AI that helps, and there's some small business owners using AI brilliantly. Let me tell you about it real quick. Let's say you are a business that is working, your nail salon, your hair salon, your restaurant, you're like something like where the owner is appliance repair, something like that, landscaping, right? Where you are working. AI can schedule customers for you. They can take that text message, they can schedule that appointment for you, they can give them a confirmation, put it in your calendar, and allow you to simply keep fixing that dishwasher, cut the hair, do the nails. So AI can be an incredibly powerful tool, and that gives that customer that frictionless, because if I got on the phone to call you or texted you, I want an appointment, I want that off my list. If I have to wait for you to call me back, if I have to go back and forth with you, this is not fun.
Yeah. So I think there's the combination, before we move on, just the combination of free and easy and there when I need it. And if you give me the tools where I can easily and quickly get what I want, I am going to fully embrace them. If you give me some tools that are half baked and ain't getting me where I want to go and causing me actually more frustration, why the heck would I want to use it? So it is all in the matter of, good intentions with good implementation. Hopefully we'll get good experience in the end. And so, yeah, I think we're definitely kicking it around a little bit there.
My biggest concern, Brent, is that folks are going to see the research that's out there, the trends that are out there, and misread it and think like, oh, people want self-service. Let's just like throw all this tech at them.
Like you said,
I think that's wrong.
People want the help or the ability to get whatever they need the quickest and easiest. And from the kind of the small business side, I'm glad that you're kind of sticking to this, even because I have this thing is the silver bullet theory. It's like, if everybody is talking about this, then that must be what I want. So if I just spend the money, the job is done. And that's like, the job is just starting. You pulling out the wallet, that's the first thing. That ain't the hardest thing. I know it feels like the hardest thing sometimes, but it definitely isn't. Actually knowing the processes, knowing if you have outdated process, knowing what technology can maybe help you get rid of some processes or improve some other processes. That's the real meat. So, I love the way that you put it, because
here's the reality.
Hail Mary, silver bullet.
Yeah. And here's the reality. Talk about a truth bomb. Uh-oh. So I have a Zoho CRM guy that helps me customize for my clients, right? And we were trying to do something, and he says, Ivana, let me just tell you something. He goes, if you want it to be easy for you, the business, it's going to be really hard on your customer. But if you want it to be easy for your customer, we're going to have to do some work here on your side. It's going to be hard for you. So to your point, Brent, there is no silver bullet, and creating, whether you want to automate or whatever elements of your customer experience, it's really all on you. That's why I'm just sitting there telling everyone the only thing you need to do after this is make a commitment to observe your customers buying, to ask them questions, talk about them, see where the friction is before you jump into like all this automation.
And a lot of these experiences are really taking place where everybody lives, which is on one of these things. PBK, you say customer demand for mobile first experiences will see a steady rise. You talk a little bit about that, and maybe give us some examples of some that SMBs should really be on the lookout for 2023.
Right. See, we say that the demand for mobile first experiences will go up predominantly because the mobile phone is really the first omni-channel device that we've had. 15 years ago, when we had to do something, sending a text message was on a phone, and then making a phone call was on a phone. That's about it. Social media was on the computer. Email was on the computer, forums were on the computer, and there's basically not that much of connectivity between these two. Today, we practically just do all of these things on the phone. In fact, even augmented reality and other things like that, we are able to do all of that perfectly on the phone, right? Video and voice and all of these things. So that's the first convenience, the ability to be able to do anything, communicate, transact, all of those things. To be able to do that on a single device has not been possible before the mobile phone. That's the first point. The second is that, given how extremely powerful our phones are in terms of computing and memory and storage and things like that, there's a ton of stuff that can be done on just the phone itself, that people do not really need a second device, right? And they'll start expecting things on the phone. So if you offer a parity between what is possible on your desktop version of your website and what is possible on your mobile version of your website, they're going to call you out for it for sure, right? And it's already happening today, and it will happen in the future even more so. And there are also some companies that essentially are going mobile only, where they don't operate on the web at all, which is, I would say, an even more pioneering step at this standpoint. And it is one for startups and some extremely edgy large businesses. But for SMBs, I would say the best is to essentially deliver as much on your mobile presence as you do on your web presence. Try and see as much of your offerings or of your experiences on the mobile phone as well, right? That's the biggest thing. And the other sort of situation now is, because it's all on a single device, good experiences get amplified, bad experiences get exploded, right? All of this still on the same device. And in many cases, frustration does not find a vent, does not even have a 30-second gap, right? If you're frustrated, the third second you're on Twitter or Instagram or something like that, or YouTube or something like that, right? Previously, if we went to a store and we were annoyed about something, we had to come back home, and by that time there would have been a pause to reflect, right? Right now, that's not there at all. So if you deliver a great experience, you're getting rave reviews about it right that instant itself, right? So gratification is very instant, and in that sense, a lot of the I'd say next generation of customers, people who are in their teens now and probably in their early 20s, are going to be expecting these rapid gratifications. It need not necessarily be their entire outcome happening in the next moment itself, but they will expect something rapidly, some response, an acknowledgement, something like that, right? And all of that is possible, I would even dare say, on the mobile phone and mobile phone only today.
Ivana?
So we're like such a good team, because I'm like the other, I'm going to take what he said and I'm going to shift it on over to you small business owners. So you remember when it's always been mobile. Then we were like, oh, your website has to be seen in mobile. So what did everybody do? Their websites got squinched into teeny tiny things, right? And then we were like, oh, so now we got to the website looks halfway decent on mobile. But oh my God, PVK, I love what you said. I am going to be the advocate for customer research and feedback, because remember, you cannot use what's out there. I'm just telling you this, right? That there's data out there that says it's important, just like what we're telling you. But what's really important is your customer. So I have an elder law attorney client. Let's say you're a financial planner, healthcare. Old people need to get their medical records. And I just looked at my mom's healthcare app, and the writing is the tiniest little thing you've ever seen. She can barely log in. She doesn't know where to go. So what I'm saying to small business owners is, know your customer, right? Know your customer and how they use that mobile device. And then you got to get that feedback to understand what to put on that mobile device to create that frictionless, seamless experience experience for them. So if they're on Facebook and now they're going to bebop over into your e-commerce site, that has to be, because you on Facebook, you see something, especially now if it's the holidays, you're like, I want that. And now I've got to figure it all out. So just all I'm saying is take what we're giving you, make sure you check in with your customers and ask and own and put those things. Don't take your whole website and shove it on your mobile device. If you're a restaurant and people want to order food or people want to whatever, make sure your menu, I've seen that again. My menus are like picture of your menu. This is not helpful.
Right.
I'm old. Things need to be in like 16-point type, people. So seriously, I am, we're talking about Gen X and we're talking about millennials, God bless them. But by 2030, something like 30% of our population is going to be over 65.
Wow.
Right? The older population is growing. And part of your user experience is, can I read what's on this little tiny thing?
Yeah.
So make sure that your fonts are big, like 14, 16, 18. Make sure that your fonts aren't in a pretty color like gray, because we cannot see that, we old people.
Yeah. All right. I want to toss out, I don't know, maybe this is a combination of things and kind of get your guys' take on it. Because you're always hearing about the creator economy. You're hearing about, what's going on with the social channels and things like TikTok, and people are always trying to figure out the best way to get people's attention and keep it long enough to, create a customer. One of the things that kind of you're seeing a lot of emphasis on now, and I guess it's been really kind of leading up to the last couple of years, but definitely during the pandemic accelerated. You've definitely seen a shift to companies looking for ways to create subscription offerings, even if it's hard product, trying to create a subscription so that they have a regular, ongoing revenue stream, but that also really creates a CX, hopefully opportunity, to some maybe dilemma, because now you have to show every month that your product, your service, the experiences you create for your customers are worthy of them signing up month after month after month. So I want to hear a little bit about, what do you see, what small businesses should really be thinking about when it comes to creating offerings that allow for their, the product or the service to become an experience that is worthy of every month being, signed off on. Because I think that's, we're in these uncertain times. Companies that don't have great relationships with their customers will lose them, but companies that have really good relationships, and there's one example, I won't say exactly what it is, but a company who is in the travel service industry at the start of the pandemic lost 97% of their revenue, but they were able to stay connected with their customer base to figure out things that their customers still needed, that they thought, well, maybe we could provide this to you guys. And so even in the darkest of days, this company was able to switch like 180 degrees, start offering this. I think it was like some sort of a travel management, a travel expense management software, something like that. So they went from travel industry to like, expense management or something like that. And they were only able to do it because they had great ongoing relationships with their customers based on, the subscription they had before. So maybe you could talk about why CX is important when we look at companies and subscriptions and offering these kind of services. And what do you see as key for 2023 in that area? PBK, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Subscriptions are really like the real test of whether your business has strong value or whether it has just the strong sales pitch, right? It's the acid test, so to speak, and it's easy for us to now see that subscriptions are the future. When we notice that gyms are offering subscriptions, gyms have traditionally been the business with which you take a New Year resolution and you pay at the beginning of the year, and you don't show up. All of that is 100% of that is revenue, right? The good ones, of course, have always been clued out. They've always been in touch with their customers, dragging them back to deliver the value, but a ton of them have not, right? So that's a sarcastic look at how a subscription economy is essentially the end thing. Now, one of the things that businesses can do is, like you mentioned in the travel example as well, to lean on a community of their customers, which of course implies that they should have a community, they should have built it, nurtured, and all that stuff. That's necessary, but community, I think, is the biggest sort of moat, right? For especially for small businesses, right? It's the hardest thing to copy, because a large business can essentially come in and copy your product or your service. They can copy your pricing for sure. I mean, they can even undercut you on price because they're not really worried about unit economics. What they absolutely cannot copy is the passion of the community itself, right? That's extremely hard to replicate. It's extremely hard to develop by yourself as well. It takes a lot of time. Throwing a ton of money at it does not solve the problem even a little bit, right? It does take time. It does take a lot of effort and a lot of deliberate attention and effort. So community, I think, in that sense, is the best bet that small businesses have that they can lean on. It, in a certain sense, does not cost money per se. It does cost a lot of time and attention. It does cost a lot of effort. And it may cost money in some cases, but it's not anywhere close to as outrageous as what advertising costs, right? And the community by itself is going to is a source of recurring value for the business itself, because it is going to keep delivering even when you don't have a budget for advertising. Everybody in your community that loves the community and that loves your offerings, they're going to never stop speaking about how awesome your business is. So it's the gift that keeps on giving in that sense.
Even any thoughts?
I'm gonna go in I'm gonna take off on what PVK said, I think, which is all the things he said apply to a small business. And I heard recently from a friend of mine who said that in terms of local businesses, restaurants especially, there's still like 20% of their customer base that has not come back since COVID. Now, whether they are using subscription services like Uber Eats or DoorDash or something, a lot of people are doing that. For whatever reason, they don't have this need to come into the store. That's a challenge that local businesses are having. Another challenge that local businesses are having, and this is going to speak to this customer experience thing that we're talking about, is that people come into their stores, they look around at their products, they might take pictures of products, they go home or they take their mobile device and they buy it on Amazon. So why would they come to your store? I live in a tourist town, and right now we are super busy because it's Christmas time and people are coming for the experience of walking around, having ice cream, seeing the gazebo, walking through stores with people, so on and so forth. So I think businesses, regardless of whether you're a manufacturer or a local business, I think if you're looking at subscriptions, what that allows you to do is automate that purchasing process and create an offer, right? The great thing about a subscription offer is that, again, it's a frictionless system that links your product and service to the customer. And now inside of your business, you can allocate your time and energy to building that relationship, like PVK said.
Okay, let me get this back to this. This has been a great conversation, folks. Wow, this time really flew by. I want to thank Ivana and PVK for the great information. I want to thank you for checking this out. I want to also say happy holidays, and we will see you next year in 2023 when we're talking about CX for SMBs more again. Thanks again.